Midnight. 3 days to the wedding. A billionaire pries open a hidden door, and a voice begs from the dark, "Don't let her know you found me." Inside, the maid the world thinks stole millions and fled. She never left. She was buried alive by the woman about to become his wife. Now Kong Min-jae has 3 days to choose: the fiancé everyone adores, or the truth someone tried to bury forever. The wedding is set. The secret is out. Hey family, welcome to my story channel. Please subscribe and give this video a like. Don't forget to share it with your friends and loved ones. Thank you so much for the support. Now, sit back and let's move into today's story. Midnight. 3 days before his wedding. Kong Min-jae stood alone in a hallway he hadn't visited in years, flashlight trembling in his hand. The mansion was silent except for the wind outside, and a soft, strange thud coming from behind an old wooden cabinet. He froze. Listened again. There it was, a weak knock like a fist hitting a wall from the inside. His heart began to race. He pushed the heavy cabinet aside, dust rising into the air, and there, hidden behind years of neglect, was a door he never knew existed. His hand hovered over the handle. "Hello," he whispered, voice shaking. "Is someone there?" A weak, trembling voice answered from the darkness. "Mr. Kong, please don't let her know you found me." Min-jae's chest tightened. He knew that voice. It couldn't be. He pushed the door open, and there she was, thin, pale, sitting on the cold floor of a windowless room. Amara, the maid everyone believed had stolen millions from him and vanished 6 weeks ago. "Amara?" His voice cracked. "You're alive? Everyone said you ran away. They said you stole from me." She looked up at him, eyes hollow with exhaustion, but sharp with something else, determination. "I never left this house, Mr. Kong," she said. "I never touched your money. Your fiancée is not who you think she is." Min-jae knelt beside her, stunned, unable to speak. 3 days, he whispered. "In 3 days I was going to marry her." "Then you still have time," Amara said, "to hear the truth." Now let's rewind. 6 weeks earlier. Before the locked door. Before the lies. Amara Johnson was 27, newly arrived in South Korea, working as a live-in maid inside the Grand Kong mansion. She was quiet, careful, and noticed things other people missed. She didn't gossip in the kitchen with the other staff. She didn't complain about long hours. She simply worked and watched. Kong Min-jae, 35, was the billionaire heir to a hotel and real estate empire built by his late father. Sharp in business, gentle in love, especially with the woman he was about to marry. Seo Hai-rin was elegant, graceful, adored by everyone who met her. The public called her the perfect bride. But behind her soft smiles was a woman drowning in secrets, desperate to keep them buried at any cost. Mrs. Park, the elderly head housekeeper, had served the family for over 20 years. She liked Amara instantly. But she also understood something the younger staff didn't. In this house, some doors were better left closed. And quietly, from a distance, watching everything unfold, was Detective Lee, hired secretly by a man who was only beginning to doubt the woman he loved. On Amara's very first week, Mrs. Park pulled her aside in the hallway, gripping her arm gently. "Keep your head down," she warned. "Do your work quietly. And whatever you do, never ask about the West Wing." "Why not?" Amara asked, glancing toward a locked door at the end of the corridor. Mrs. Park's eyes flicked nervously in that direction. "Because some things in this house were buried a long time ago," she whispered. "And Madame Hai-rin prefers they stay that way." Amara nodded slowly, but a strange unease settled in her chest. This job wouldn't be as simple as cleaning floors and folding linen. She had no idea just how right she was. Amara settled into the mansion's rhythm quickly. She woke before sunrise, cleaned in silence, and stayed out of everyone's way. Min-jae, buried in company meetings and wedding preparations, barely noticed her. But his younger sister, Ji-yoon, noticed her immediately. "You're different from the other maids," Ji-yoon said one afternoon, watching Amara water the garden plants. "You actually look people in the eye when they talk to you." Amara smiled softly. "I like knowing who I'm working for." Ji-yoon laughed. "I like you already." Most maids here just nod and disappear. The two grew close fast, sharing tea and quiet laughter in the kitchen after chores. But not everyone welcomed the friendship. Hi-rin disliked Amara from the very first day. She couldn't explain it. But something about the way Amara observed the household, calm and unreadable, unsettled her deeply. One evening, Amara walked into Min-jae's private office to clean, expecting it empty. Instead, she found Hi-rin seated at his desk, fingers moving quickly across his laptop keyboard. The moment she noticed Amara, Hi-rin snapped the laptop shut. "I was checking wedding vendor invoices," Hi-rin said smoothly, standing up too fast. "Min-jae asked me to handle it." "Of course, madam," Amara said, lowering her eyes respectfully. "I'll come back later." She turned to leave, but something caught her eye. A gold-plated security access card clutched tightly in Hi-rin's hand. It belonged to Min-jae's late father. Amara said nothing. She bowed politely and walked out, her mind racing the entire way down the hall. Why does she have his father's card? And why did she look so panicked when I walked in? That night, Amara lay awake in her small room, replaying the moment over and over. The guilty flash in Hi-rin's eyes. The way she'd slammed the laptop shut like she was hiding something dangerous. She told herself it wasn't her business. She was just the maid. She needed this job to support her family back home. She couldn't afford to make enemies with the future lady of the house. But something inside her refused to let it go. Days passed, and Amara kept her eyes open, careful never to draw attention. She noticed Hi-rin slipping into the garden late at night. Phone pressed to her ear, voice sharp and urgent. She noticed unfamiliar black cars pulling quietly into the estate after midnight, gone again before the staff woke for breakfast. One morning, she overheard two guards whispering near the gate. "She had them come again last night," one muttered. "Third time this month," the other replied. "Something's not right." Amara said nothing, but she filed it away piece by piece, like a puzzle slowly forming a dangerous picture. She didn't know it yet, but she was getting closer to a secret that could destroy an entire family. And somebody was about to notice her watching. It happened on a rainy Thursday evening. Amara was carrying fresh towels toward the unused guest wing, a forgotten section of the mansion nobody visited anymore, when she heard hushed voices coming from behind a half-closed door. She stopped walking. Her breath caught. "You said this would be handled quietly," a man's voice hissed. It was Min-jae's company accountant. She recognized it instantly. "It will be," Hi-rin snapped back, her tone sharp and cold. "Once the wedding happens, I'll have legal control of his shares. Nobody will question a single thing after that. The auditors are going to find the missing funds eventually, Hi-rin. Millions of dollars don't just disappear without a trace. Then we may sure they find someone else to blame," Hi-rin said calmly. "Someone inside this house. Someone nobody important enough to believe." Amara's heart pounded so loudly she was certain they could hear it through the wall. She began backing away slowly, and her elbow struck a decorative vase resting on a side table. It shattered against the marble floor, the sound echoing through the empty hallway. "Who's there?" Hi-rin shouted, her voice sharp with alarm. Amara turned and ran, bare feet silent against the cold floor, disappearing around the corner just as the door swung open behind her. Hi-rin stepped into the hallway, eyes scanning the shadows. She saw nothing. No one. But on the floor beside the broken vase lay a small embroidered cleaning cloth. She bent down slowly and picked it up, reading the tiny stitched initials. "A.J.," she whispered under her breath. "Amara Johnson." From that moment forward, Hi-rin's kindness became a performance, and Amara became a target. The next morning, Hyrin arrived at breakfast wearing a warm, practiced smile, holding a small gift bag. "Amara," she said sweetly, sliding into the seat beside her. "I picked this up for you. Just a little something to say thank you for your hard work." Amara accepted the bag carefully, confusion flickering behind her polite smile. "Thank you, madam. That's very kind. Tell me," Hyrin continued, leaning closer, "how is your family back home? I'd love to help you find something better than maid work. You're clearly smart, talented, even." Amara kept her expression calm, but alarm bells rang loudly in her mind. She knows something. She's testing me. That night, alone in her small room, Amara stared at the untouched gift bag on her dresser. She didn't open it. Instead, she pulled out a small notebook and began writing down everything. Every overheard word, every strange detail, every lie she'd witnessed. She hid the notebook beneath a loose floorboard in the unused guest wing. Then she did something even more dangerous. She turned on the voice recorder on her phone, slipped it into her apron pocket, and walked straight back toward the guest wing, determined to catch Hyrin in her own words, one final time. She had no idea Hyrin was already one step ahead of her. Amara's second recording captured even more than she'd hoped. Hyrin's voice, sharp and desperate, discussing hidden accounts, falsified documents, and a plan to frame someone once the wedding was finished. It was everything Min-jae needed to know the truth. But before Amara could find the right moment to speak with him, everything collapsed. She woke one morning to chaos echoing through the mansion. Security guards moved quickly through the halls. Min-jae's face was pale, his jaw tight with fury. "Money is missing from my private safe," he said, voice shaking. "A large amount. And the security footage." He turned to Amara, and for the first time, his eyes held something she had never seen from him before. "Suspicion. The footage shows you entering my office late last night," he said quietly. "Amara, what did you do?" "I didn't do anything," Amara said, panic rising in her chest. "I was asleep in my room. I would never steal from you." "Her passport is missing too," Hyrin said softly, stepping beside him, resting a comforting hand on his arm. "And her suitcase. I think she's already planning to run." "That's not true," Amara cried, desperation cracking her voice. "Someone is setting me up. Please, you have to believe me." But nobody was listening anymore. By evening, whispers had spread through the entire household staff. The maid stole from Mr. Kong. The maid ran away in the night. Mrs. Park refused to believe it. Amara would never steal, she told anyone who would listen, her voice trembling with conviction. "I know that girl's heart." But the evidence looked overwhelming. Security footage, a missing passport, a sudden disappearance. Min-jae, heartbroken and feeling utterly betrayed, called the police himself. "Find her," he said grimly. "I want answers." What nobody knew, what nobody could have guessed, was that the security footage had been secretly edited. A woman wearing Amara's coat had walked calmly through the airport that morning. But it wasn't Amara, because at that very moment, Amara wasn't running anywhere at all. She was standing in the unused guest wing, face to face with Hyrin, whose warm smile had completely vanished. "Give me the recording," Hyrin said, her voice ice cold. "Now, Amara. I won't ask twice." "No," Amara said, standing her ground despite the fear pounding through her chest. "Min-jae deserves to know the truth about you." Hyrin's expression didn't flicker. She simply nodded toward the door, where her security guard was already stepping inside the room. He grabbed Amara's phone from her apron and crushed it beneath his boot. "Lock her in the old room," Hyrin ordered calmly. "The one behind the cabinet. No one will ever find her there." Amara screamed, struggling against the guard's grip, but the sound barely escaped the thick mansion walls. The last thing she saw before the door slammed shut was Hyrin's calm, unreadable face, already rehearsing her next lie. The room was small, dark and completely silent. No windows. No sound from the outside world. Just cold stone walls and the ache of fear. Amara sat on the floor, wrists raw from struggling earlier, mind spinning in circles. Nobody knows I'm here. Nobody is coming for me. Days blurred together in the darkness. She survived only because small amounts of food and water appeared near a tiny maintenance opening, left unknowingly by Mrs. Park, who believed she was simply feeding stray cats behind the old wing. Amara didn't know who was leaving the food. She only knew it was the reason she was still breathing. Meanwhile, outside that locked door, Hyrin worked quickly to build her perfect lie. She used Amara's stolen passport details to create a fake travel record. She quietly transferred stolen company funds into a bank account opened secretly under Amara's name. Enough manufactured evidence to convince anyone that Amara had planned this all along. She used us, Hyrin told Min-jae one evening, her voice trembling with practiced sorrow. I trusted her completely. I even bought her gifts. And this is how she repaid our kindness. Min-jae said nothing. He simply stared at the floor, heart heavy with a grief he couldn't fully explain, even to himself. But grief has a strange way of making people start asking questions. A week later, small details began troubling him quietly. Amara's bank card was still being used, small local purchases, food, near the mansion itself. If she'd truly fled the country, why was her card still active nearby? He pulled up the airport footage again late one night, studying it closely under his desk lamp. The woman wore Amara's coat, but something about the way she walked felt wrong, too stiff, too unfamiliar. Ji-yoon noticed her brother's growing silence at dinner. You don't actually believe she stole from us, do you? She asked one night, setting down her fork. I don't know what to believe anymore, Min-jae admitted quietly. She would never leave without saying goodbye to me. Ji-yoon said firmly, eyes glistening. Never. Not Amara. Her words stayed with him long after she'd left the table. The next day, he found Mrs. Park in the kitchen, her eyes tired and heavy with worry. Mrs. Park, he said carefully, the night Amara disappeared, did you hear anything unusual in the house? Mrs. Park hesitated, wringing her hands. I heard banging, she said quietly, coming from the old guest wing. Madam Hyrin told me it was construction work being done. Min-jae's stomach turned cold as ice. There was no construction scheduled, he said slowly. I would have approved it myself. That night, Min-jae confronted Hyrin directly about the sealed section of the mansion. Her smile faltered, just for a second, but he saw it. It has mold, she said quickly, too quickly. Dangerous mold, growing in the walls. I had it sealed for everyone's safety. You really shouldn't go near it. But Min-jae had already made up his mind. He was going to find out exactly what, or who, was hidden behind that locked door, no matter what it cost him. Min-jae quietly hired Detective Lee, a private investigator known for uncovering secrets buried too deep for ordinary police to find. Look into the airport footage from 6 weeks ago, Min-jae instructed, sliding a folder across the table. Something about it isn't right. 3 days later, Detective Lee returned with unsettling news, spreading photographs across Min-jae's desk. The footage was altered, he said grimly. This woman is wearing Amara's coat. But look closely at her hands. Amara has a small scar on her left wrist. This woman doesn't have one at all. Min-jae stared at the photo, hands trembling as the truth sank in. Then who is she? One of Hyrin's personal assistants, Detective Lee said. We traced her flight records carefully. She flew out that same morning, then quietly flew back into the country 3 days later. Min-jae felt the ground shift beneath him. Amara never left the mansion at all. That night, without telling anyone, Min-jae searched the property alone, flashlight in hand, heart pounding with dread and fragile hope. He walked through hallways he hadn't visited in years, checking every locked door, every forgotten room. Behind an old storage cabinet in the west wing, he noticed something strange. deep scratch marks across the floor, as if the cabinet had been pushed aside and back again, over and over. His hands shook as he pushed it away. Behind it was a door he never knew existed. And this is exactly where our story began. He opened it and found Amara, weak, exhausted, but alive. "Amara," he breathed, voice cracking. "You're alive. Your fiancée is not who you think she is," she whispered. This time, he truly listened. Amara told him everything: the overheard conversation in the rain, the stolen company funds, the plan to frame her after the wedding concluded. She showed him a small memory card she had hidden inside the room before her phone was destroyed, the last piece of evidence Hye-rin never knew existed. Min-jae played it on his own phone, jaw tightening with every damning word. It was Hye-rin's voice, cold and unmistakable, discussing the missing funds, though she never clearly stated her full plan out loud. "It's not everything," Amara admitted quietly, "but it's something real." Min-jae looked at her, guilt written plainly across his face. "I'm so sorry. I should have listened to my instincts. I should have asked more questions from the start." "You're here now," Amara said softly. "That's what matters most." He helped her gently to her feet. "Stay hidden a little longer," he said. "I need real, undeniable proof. Enough to expose her completely, in front of everyone. Can you trust me one more time?" Amara looked into his eyes and, despite everything she'd endured, nodded slowly. "I trust you." Min-jae returned to Hye-rin the next morning, forcing a calm, convincing smile onto his face. "The wedding will continue as planned," he told her. Relief washed visibly over Hye-rin's features. "I knew you'd come to your senses," she said, kissing his cheek softly. She had no idea he was recording every single word on a hidden device. Behind the scenes, Min-jae worked quickly and quietly. He brought in independent company auditors to trace the stolen funds properly, discovering that the account opened in Amara's name had been created using documents submitted directly from Hye-rin's private office computer. Undeniable, damning proof of her involvement. He met privately with the frightened accountant, offering him full legal protection in exchange for honest testimony. "I never wanted any of this," the accountant admitted, hands shaking as he spoke. "She threatened my family if I refused to help her move the money. Testify against her in front of everyone," Min-jae said firmly, "and I promise you and your family will be protected." After a long, tense silence, the accountant finally agreed. But Hye-rin wasn't foolish or careless. She soon noticed the hidden room's door standing open, the heavy cabinet pushed aside. Her blood ran instantly cold. Amara escaped. Someone found her. Instead of panicking outright, she made a bold, desperate decision. She moved the wedding forward by one full day, hoping to legally secure access to Min-jae's assets before anyone could stop her. "Why the sudden rush?" Ji-yoon asked suspiciously over breakfast, eyeing her closely. "I simply want to become your brother's wife as soon as possible," Hye-rin said sweetly, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of genuine fear. Meanwhile, Min-jae, Detective Lee, Mrs. Park, and Amara prepared quietly for what was coming. A carefully planned confrontation to expose Hye-rin publicly, in front of everyone who mattered, on the very day she believed she'd finally won everything. "Are you ready for this?" Min-jae asked Amara the night before the ceremony, his voice gentle. "I've been ready since the day she locked that door behind me," Amara said firmly, her eyes steady. "It's time she finally faces the truth." The hotel ballroom shimmered with white flowers and golden light. Wealthy guests, business investors, and reporters filled every seat, waiting eagerly for the ceremony to begin. Hye-rin walked gracefully down the aisle in a stunning white gown, smiling with practiced, flawless elegance. When she reached the altar, Min-jae didn't take her hand. "Before we marry," he said, his voice steady and loud enough for the entire room to hear clearly, "can you explain why a woman you claimed had run away was found locked inside my own house?" Gasps rippled instantly through the crowd. The ballroom's grand doors opened. Amara walked in, standing tall beside Mrs. Park and Detective Lee. The guests turned in visible shock, whispering her name back and forth. "That's impossible," Hyrin said, forcing a nervous laugh. "She's here to blackmail us. She's dangerous. Min-jae, please don't listen to a word she says." Min-jae calmly raised his phone and pressed play. Hyrin's own voice filled the silent ballroom, discussing the missing funds, the fake accounts, and the plan to frame someone inside the household. The accountant stepped forward from the crowd, visibly shaking. "Everything she said is true," he confirmed. "I personally helped move the funds, under her direct instruction." Security footage played across the large screen behind them. Hyrin's assistant, wearing Amara's coat, carrying her suitcase quietly through the airport. Hyrin's face went completely pale. The room fell silent except for scattered gasps of disbelief. "You have no idea what you've just done," Hyrin hissed, slowly backing away from the altar. "I didn't act alone in this." Every eye in the room turned sharply toward her. "Someone inside this very family helped me," she said coldly. "Your own uncle wanted control of the company more than you will ever know. I was going to marry you, take your shares, and hand everything over to him for an enormous fortune." Investigators, waiting quietly just outside the ballroom, entered and took her away as she screamed accusations no one initially wanted to believe, until further investigation proved every word true. Min-jae's uncle was arrested days later. Amara was publicly cleared of every single accusation against her. Min-jae found her outside the hotel that evening, the chaos behind them finally beginning to fade into quiet. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. "I believed evidence over you. I should have listened to my heart sooner." "You listened when it truly mattered," Amara said gently, a small smile forming. He offered her money for everything she'd endured, but she shook her head firmly. "I don't want to go back to being a maid," she said. "I want to build something meaningful. A home care agency. One that protects foreign workers like me from abuse and exploitation." Min-jae smiled for the first time in weeks. "Then let's build it together. You'll own it. You'll run it. I'll simply fund it." Months later, Amara returned to the mansion, not wearing a uniform, but a tailored blazer, now the confident director of her own thriving company. Min-jae met her personally at the entrance. "The last time you entered this house," he said warmly, "nobody listened to you." Amara smiled, standing tall. "This time, I didn't come to be heard. I came because I finally have a voice." Behind them, the once forgotten room, dark and silent for years, had been transformed into a bright, welcoming reading space for the household staff. Sometimes the truth isn't destroyed. It's only locked away, waiting for someone brave enough to open the door. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment your favorite character, and subscribe for more stories like this one. See you in the next story.